that you may know, that you may know. I've spent the last several years encouraging prayer warriors to pray more. This is no easy feat in our busy world. And as if praying it's hard enough, the part of prayer that requires listening through the noise feels nearly impossible. If your world anything like mine, it's wall-to-wall giggling, screaming and singing, leaving little room to hear a whisper from the Lord. Despite how challenging prayer is, though it's worth it, that because hearing from God determines so much about how we walk through this life. In the story about Joshua in the battle for the promised land, we read these words spoken to him from the Lord. Stretch out the javelin that is in your hand toward Ai, for I will give it into your hand. Joshua 8 verse 18. So Joshua stretched out this javelin toward the city. What strikes me about this passage is that the Lord gave instruction to Joshua in the middle of battle. And Joshua heard him, I prepared to get all my instruction before the chaos begins. Maybe in my early morning, when the rest of the house is asleep, but the fact that the Lord spoke in the midst of the battle reminds me that the longs to speak to me in the chaos too, not just in the quiet moments. And truth be told, most days, that's when I need to be listening for Him the most, when I'm in the middle of the daily battles. Hearing God is life altering when word attuned to His voice. It can change the entire trajectory of our day. The question is, are we willing to listen? Will we flow headfirst into destruction, or we will avoid the pitfalls on going our own way because we clearly heard the Lord redirecting us? Will we believe the world's lies and face discouragement, or will we hear the Lord prompting us to embrace His joy instead? Perhaps the most amazing thing about communicating with God is that He longs to reveal Himself to us. I love finding patterns of communication in the Bible. In the story about God sending flags to Egypt to set the Israelites free, we see similar warning repeated 6 times in 4 chapters. You may know, and you shall know. In each case, God is longing to reveal Himself to human beings. My guess is that you want God to reveal Himself to you too. Sometimes the evil one holds us back, and sometimes it's our own sin, but I venture to say that most of the time it's the precise voices in the noble art of taking care of small humans that dull the voice of God. This might seem like a justifiable reason to ignore God, but He has a word for you today. He wanted the Israelites to know, even in the midst of challenging times, and that's what He wants for us to. That you may know there is no one like the Lord our God. Exodus 8:10. See also 9:14. You shall know that I am the Lord. Exodus 7:17. See also 10 verse 2. That you may know that I am Lord in the midst of the earth. Exodus 8:22. That you may know that the earth is the Lord's. Exodus 9:29. We know when we know how big God is, it helps us continue coming back to Him. When we see Him for it truly is, we are less likely to see Him as some pesky obligation in just one more person who wants our time and attention. As we see more of who He is through His words, we recognize the privilege it is that He longs to speak with us. Okay, that is thank you. Action step, prayer. Okay, that is thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. It's done.